the attendees are coming, and I hope you all know about Progressive Techies. We are a socio-cultural organization which we are operating in various cyberpark second tech talk during this lockdown. And today, Team Solutions, they are institute in Kakanat, and their trainer Nixon Augustine is here for taking a class on AngularJS. So let me hand over to him.
Okay. Thank you, Shreyas. A very good evening to one and all of you. I hope all of you can see me. Can I see some confirmations on the chat window, please? Can all of you see me and hear me? Hello? Yes, I see Vishnu sent a message. Yes, you can hear me. Yes. Yes. Okay, fine. So I take it for positive that all of you can hear me. Okay. So let's start off with our session today. Okay, let me introduce myself. I am Nixon. I'm a developer, come a trainer. So my passion is training, and then I learned various coding languages on the run. So there is nothing that I've learned theoretically, but then it happens on project requirements and all that. So today's session will be on Angular. Now, what is Angular? Why has Angular become a big buzz name in the market today? And you see, everywhere, everyone talking about mean stack and all that. So why has Angular gained so much of trust, so much of name in the market today? One of the reasons for that is that because it's all based on a JavaScript framework, and JavaScript framework has extended to to a great extent that almost all parts of a web application development can be handled by JavaScript. So there is Node.js, which again handles various aspects of web development. So the options are many. So just a second while I share my screen. Okay. So let's start off. I've named today's session Breaking Mountains into Bits and Bytes. So Angular is a very deep subject. I mean, there are a lot of technology involved, a lot of aspects into it. And Google has done such a great work in creating Angular. So I've named this session Breaking Mountains, that is Angular, into bits and pieces, bits and bytes. So we'll try to cover as much as simple concepts today that will be your first step to your Angular development. So why Angular? Now, that's one question that usually people ask me. Why have you opted for Angular, or why is Angular's, what is recommended? So when I was doing a study on Angular, what I actually noticed is two factors. The people who are backing Angular is two tech giants. Now, most of you would have heard that Angular is backed by Google. Then who is the second one of the tech giant who is backing Angular? That is Microsoft. So it's not a direct involvement of Microsoft into Angular, but Microsoft has developed TypeScript, and TypeScript is used in Angular. So when two big giants, tech giants, come together, and when it becomes a new solution, it opens up all the avenue for a big world. Now, there are some other reasons why Angular is used nowadays, because it gives a clean structure. So some applications, when you develop it, if it doesn't have a right place for everything, so like if you have a PHP file, if you have a JavaScript file, if it's placed in different folders, and when 10 people work on a single project and it's in 10 different places, it becomes a chaos. But what's the beauty of Angular is that they have given a beautiful structure in place. There's already a structure in place. You just have to put whatever you need there, and then it also creates a lot of reusable code. Now it's based on the concept of DRY. Do not repeat yourself. It's like you write a code for a particular purpose once, and then it's used again and again. Only the parameters need to change. So we have developed a drop-down component which takes data from API. So if we have 10 drop-downs with 10 data coming from 10 APIs, you just need to build one component. Okay, we'll come into all that on a later stage. And again, Angular has a built-in test module, which makes testing, testing is unit testing becomes simpler in Angular. So the next thing that we're going to discuss about is semantic versioning. How is Angular versioned? So Google follows a semantic. Angular team follows a semantic versioning. So if you notice, any version of Angular will have 3 parameters into it. If you look at it, you will find a major part. There will be a minor part and a patch to it. So if you see, for example, if you talk about a version 5.2.3, okay, anytime if someone sees that their Angular version is, this is just an example. I'm not sure even if there's a version like this. But then if you see 5.2.3, it means that this patch, let's start off with patch. Now patch is like when there's a bug in a program in Angular, they come up with patches. So that patch, this is the 3rd patch that has been released for this version of Angular. So for the 5th version, there is the 3rd patch. And minor changes into the Angular application, which will not affect our day-to-day coding development process, are introduced at times. So that comes as 2. So on version 5, Angular team has come up with 2 minor changes and 3 patches. So that's how you see the versioning of Angular. And these are the versions of Angular that is already in the market. Angular 9 being the latest version. There is Angular JS, and never confuse Angular JS with Angular 2 plus. Angular JS is a totally different framework as such, but it's by the same Google team, same Angular team. They have defined from 2 onwards, they have come up with a newer structure. And Angular 2, then 4. There is no Angular 3. So Angular 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the latest being 9. So the code that we're going to discuss today is valid for any version of Angular beyond 2. So if you think you want to work with Angular 9, and the code that we're going to discuss today is going to work with it. If you want to work with 6, it works with it. So what we're going to do next is how we can install Angular into our system. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So we need to have Node to install Angular, and there's an URL for Node here. You can go visit that version, and you will see that you can download Node. And to install Angular, you can actually use this command. There is a package manager for Node, npm, and you can just use install -g Angular/CLI. So CLI is command line interface. Just keep this in mind because we'll come back to this later. CLI is command line interface. So what we're doing is using Node package manager, we are installing Angular's CLI. Okay. So this is the structure of an Angular application. Let's not get into this. Okay, let's not confuse ourselves with too much of structures and too much of theory. We'll try to keep this session more interactive. So we'll come back to this later. Okay, what we're going to see next is Angular CLI. Now, Angular CLI is a tool given by Google by Angular team to develop a project. So if you need to develop a project, you simply need to type in ng new and a new project starts. So let's just give it a try. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open command prompt. Okay, and okay, are you guys following me? I would like to keep the session interactive. So I would be really happy if you can ask me some doubts, or if you think I'm going fast, you can stop me at any point of time. If you think something that I've explained till now needs to be retold, I'm really happy to do that. So please put up your comments, your feedbacks on the chat. Yeah, I'll have a look at it also. So what is happening here is we are going to eat, right? Okay, so okay. Now what I've done here is I'm going to e:new. Okay, there's a folder that I've newly created, and I'm going to start a new project. So the simple command that is given by Angular team to start a new project or to create the files required for a new project is ng-new. So let's just give that a try. ng-new, and we have to give a project name to it. So let's give my first project. Okay. So now you will be coming across two questions that the CLI will ask you. Two simple questions. Okay. The first question would be whether you would be wanting routing. So let's just give it a second. Okay. So in the default structure that is being created by Angular, they are asking you, do you need routing to be included into it? So we are going to give it an yes and go ahead. So now what's the next question that we come across? The next question is, which style sheet format would you like to use? So Angular has option for you to work with CSS, SCSS, SAS, and less. So I would go ahead with CSS itself. Let's keep it simple. Okay, and that's it. Now the remaining part of creating a project will be done by the CLI, the command line interface. Okay, so all this we don't have to do anything. All these files are being created, all these files being generated is done by the CLI. Okay, so this takes some time. So it might take around 1 to 2 minutes, maybe a bit more. So we'll go into the explanation on how an Angular app is structured. Okay. So just look at this. This is how an Angular application is structured. Okay. I wouldn't on the very first day confuse you on modules and components and all that. Just keep this one thing in mind, that components are a building block of an application in Angular. Components are a building block of Angular. Excuse me. Components are a building block of an Angular application. So you will see in an application, there will be, in an Angular application, there will be modules. Okay, will be one or more than one, and there will be components to it. Okay. Now, and each component is made up of 3 parts. HTML, 4 parts in fact actually. HTML, CSS, TS is a TypeScript file. Okay, and a spec.ts. Just keep this thing in mind. So there are 4 files in a component. Okay, there are 4 files that will be there in a component. Those 4 files are HTML file, a CSS file, a TS file, and a spec.ts file. Okay. Now let's just see if our installation of Angular, generation of Angular component is okay. It's not that. Okay. So we'll go to the next point in this. Now, for any project, be it a small project or a project on a larger scale, okay, there will be basically 3 files that we will have. Okay, can someone tell me what are the 3 files? That's the most basic requirement. I mean, like, if you need to create a web application, you would need 3 files. Can someone give me the name of those 3 files, or what kind of files they are? Can I see some answers, please? Okay, so our project, are all of you able to are all of you able to hear and see me? Is there any difficulty in hearing or seeing me? Yes. So 4 files, 3 files. That's correct. An HTML file, a HTML file, a CSS file, and a JS file. Lost connection, show instance. Okay. I think I have some requests here. I have not seen it. Okay. 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 Session started. I can't see the presentation. Okay. Fine. Okay, fine. There has been a request to enlarge the CLI screen. I think that was not visible. So so I'll just explain it. Is the screen have you guys been able to see the CLI screen? So it was just a simple command, okay, a simple command to start a new Angular project. So I'm just explaining this because I have a request from few of you who said you are not able to see the CLI screen. So it's just ng. Ng is the short form for Angular. So any command for Angular will start with an ng. Okay, just keep that in mind. Ng and new. We want to start a new project. So ng new, and we just give it the project name. So once you type in this, it starts a new project in this folder. Is that clear? Okay, so this is how we create a new Angular project. So when you create a new Angular project, I'll just go through that step once more. When you create a new Angular project, the first question that they would ask you is, would you like to add Angular routing? Okay, so we will go ahead. We will go ahead and select yes. Okay, so that enables routing in Angular. Okay, and our next question is, what kind of style sheet format do you want? So we have different formats: CSS, SCSS, Ref, SAS, and less. So you can go ahead with anyone. You can just select CSS, and it starts creating the files for itself. That's only two things that you have to do, and a new project is started. So we will just I'll just go back to what we were discussing before. So any project should have a HTML file where the front end code is there. Then there is a CSS file for styling that, style sheet file to style that HTML component. And there should be one more file. That file can be any technology. It can be a PHP file, it can be a ASP.NET file, JavaScript file, anything. So any file that would control the business logic. The business logic is nothing but whether you need to show something, whether you need to permit someone to view some features. It's all that logic that works out. So there are three different files. Same way, Angular component has three files that works out. It is an HTML, CSS, and a TS file. It has an HTML, CSS, and a TS file. So TS is a TypeScript file, which simply means the place where you have your business logic. Okay. So I think we are good to go, and let's open and see how an Angular project would look like. So I have used Visual Studio Code as my IDE for editing my code in this one. So in new, my first project. So this is the second project that I created with the names project. And my first project is a project that we initially created, and all the files have been generated. So then let's go ahead and open that file, open the folder. Okay, there has been a question by Vishnu Prasad asking, can you explain what is routing? In one line. Routing in one single line, if you ask me, is simply a href. A href in HTML. When you write a href, you get a URL, or you get a way in which you can redirect to a different file. So the same concept is done here. In Angular, routing is a simple process of navigating between different components. So if you click on a button and if you need to go to a new component or a new view, you use routing. That is what is routing. I hope Vishnu Prasad that you would have understood it. So let's look into this. So these are the files that are being created by Angular. Okay. Now don't get worried when you see so many files, and you might get confused. So all these are some of these files we don't even touch during the development process of a project. So there are the files that we would be working is the SRC, the source folder. So if you open up the SRC folder, the source folder, you will find there is app folder, there is assets, environment, favicon, index.html, main.ts, polyfills, and styles, and test.ts. Now, styles.css is the universal styles, the global styles, which if you have a particular format in the whole in which the whole Angular application has to be defined, and which can be accessed by each component, you can define it in styles here. Let's forget all this. Let's not get too much complicated, too much worried about all that. So I just go ahead. I am just going ahead and opening up app folder. Okay. So now I have just two folders. You should focus your eyes on only two folders. One is the source folder, and in that source folder, the app folder. Okay. So this might sound a bit confusing in the first. Okay. Don't get worried. Just come along with me, and I'll explain how it goes. So for any application, the starting point or the point of entry to any application is, can someone tell me what is the point of entry into any application? Can I see some answers, please? The point of entry to any application or a web app, what is the first file that a server checks out for? Exactly. So here we have AB. So index.html, I see a lot of answers. Main class. Okay. Fine, great. So I'll just go ahead with index.html. So when a web server, let's in a simple term, when a web application starts off, the first file it would look for is index.html or index.php or index.js. So same way, in an Angular application, again it goes and searches for index.html. Okay, let's see what is there in index.html. Okay, so it's a standard document where it says the doc type, HTML. So it's just normal. Okay, so let's not get worried about all this. Okay, I'm going ahead and deleting it. So you had a body head, you had a body and a head, and you had a HTML tag, you had a body and a head tag into this. So I'm just going to keep this one part of this file, only this one part. What does it say? It says app root. Okay, app root. So what is app root? What happens when Angular or the compiler or the Angular editor sees app root? It's a name or it's an address to going to somewhere else. Okay, so what address is that? So can all of you see the file name? Is it visible, or should I increase the font size anymore? Okay, fine. So I take it for positive that it's visible. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. So when Angular sees that there is an app root module here or app root, what does it do? It goes searches out on app folder for any folder or any set of files that have this address app root. So we'll just go around. Okay, so from index we came to index, and from index it sees app root, and it is going to search for app root in this app folder. Okay, so let me just restore what was there. Okay, and it is going to, what is it going to? It goes to app.module.ts file. Okay, you don't find any app root here. Okay, so this is not the file that we are looking for. Next file that you're going to is app component.ts. Okay, so you see here there is a name app root, and what is this name app root JSON? What JSON value and key value is this? The key to it is the selector. So it simply means that if you need to select this component, okay, component is I'll explain to you what is component. Okay, so so to select this component, okay, to select this component, okay, the name that you have to call is app root. Okay, so what is a component? So if you go back to that slide, Just give me a second. Okay. So on this slide, what have I done with the component? What does it expand to? A component expands to 4 different files: a HTML file, a CSS file, a TS file, and a spec file. So a component is a combination of these 4 files. So let's now go into our code, okay, and see where are these 4 files. There we found a TS file. Okay, so this is one file. Then next there is a spec.ts file. Okay, that is good. Next we have an HTML file. Okay, that is fine. And then we have a CSS file. So if you look at it, you have 4 files, and these 4 files together form a component. Okay, so in simple words, app.component.css, app.component.html, app.component.spec.ts, and app.component.ts file are the 4 files which together forms a component. Okay, so I hope to an extent you guys have understood what a component is. A component is a combination of 4 files. Okay, and that's not the actual definition. There are more to it, but then we'll keep it that way for simplicity's sake. And now let's just look at this. So TS file is the place where you have the business logic, or the manipulation of data or processing of data happens in the TS file. The HTML file is where you will find the content or the text related to it, and the CSS file is where you write your CSS. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, as per what Google claims or Angular claim, using a CLI, if you generate a new project, it is ready to run. You don't have to do anything else. You can simply run, and you will see an output. That's what Google claims. So let's see if that is true. Okay, let's open up a terminal. Okay. One reason I've used Visual Studio Code is so that I can have the terminal within the IDE itself, or else what happens is I'll have to keep shifting between this terminal and this one. So again, let's go back to a slide and see something else. Okay. Here on the CLI slide, okay, I think we have tried out the first command, which is ng new, which creates a new project. Okay, let's not look into generate. Okay, we'll look at ng serve. So what Angular team has said that if you run ng serve, okay, if you simply run ng serve, the project starts running on a local environment. Okay, let's see if it's true. Okay, so we'll go back to the coding structure. Okay, and we will simply try out the command ng serve. Okay, I'm going to press enter. Okay, and let's see what happens. So I'll just recap through what I've said. There are 4 files into a component, and the 4 files are a HTML file, a CSS file, a TS file, and then there is a spec.ts file, which is purely for testing. Okay, this is a test unit testing file. So let's see how what happens. And the next thing is, so we have said it would take some time for the ngserve command to be executed. So meantime, I'll put you through across some concepts. So what we have next is a selector. Then it says a template URL. What is template URL? It says for this component, okay, for this component, the HTML file is app.component.html. Let's see, where is it? Okay. So whatever code is there on this, okay, app.component.html is related to this component, and the style sheet for this file is app.component.css. Okay, so what in this component file, we are unifying everything. We are calling up a selector, we are calling up a HTML file, we are calling up a CSS file. Okay, now let's see, it's what does our ng server successfully run, and what does it say here? Angular live development server is listening on localhost 4200. Open your browser on localhost 4200. Let's go ahead and open and see what happens in a browser. Okay, so I'm going ahead, and those people who would really like to try out some code that's being on what I'm trying. Hence, for now from onwards, I'm going to tell about some coding structures and all that, codes and all that. If you really need to try it out, you can go visit this site. Okay, it's Stack Bliss. I'll put it up on the chat. Okay, so it becomes easier. Stack Bliss. You can go here and you can look into starting a new project. And if you start a new project, you can select Angular. So those people who are working on React, Ionic, TypeScript, you can actually come to this website to to have a look and feel of your project. So you can actually, those people who would really like to go ahead on testing it on live environment, you can go ahead on this site. Let me put up this on the chat. Okay, I have a request from Deepika. The question is, please repeat about app root selector. Okay. Um, Okay, this is the online StackBliss editor where you can type out your code on as I say ahead. Um, let's look into localhost 4200. Okay, here. So here, what did we name our first project? Welcome to first project. First project was a name that my first project was a name that was given to the project. Okay, and here there are some links and all that. So where did all this come from? So where did all this come from? Let's give it a look. Before I continue, I would like to answer Deepika's question. Please repeat about AppRoot selector. Okay, now see, you have a set of files. Okay, just any file. Just think of it as any set of files, just 4 files, and you wanted to call that files on a single name. Okay, so when you call that single name, you need all those 4 files to be selected. That is it. That is AppRoot selector. So 1 second. Here, if you look at this, AppRoot selector is a name for this component. Okay, the whole component itself is named AppRoot. So whenever AppRoot reference is given to any part of the Angular application, if you call AppRoot name, what happens is this component gets loaded. I hope that's understood. So this is just a single name, single point name, which will point to this set of files. Okay, so yeah, so we were looking at the browser, and what did we find actually? It says, welcome to my first project. Here are some links to help you start tour of hero, CLI documentation, Angular blog. Where did all this data come from? So it's from here. If you look at the HTML file, all those content is here. Okay, welcome to title, whatever it is. So here are some links to help you start. Okay, let's remove all this. Okay, let's remove all this code. Okay, and simply type hi and save. And let's see what happens. So if you see, the moment I press save, control save, a new command prompt came. It says chunk main.js has been initiated entered. So compiled successfully, which means uh, the code has been compiled. So one of the best part of Angular is you just have to type in a code, you press on control save, and the changes are reflected on the browser. So let's open up the browser. So what do you see here? It says hi. Okay, so whatever I've typed in my HTML is being seen here. So I'll try to put up the browser and this one next to each other, so it becomes more easier. Is it visible to all of you? Okay, so I'm going to type in hi Nixon, and I'm going to save it. Okay, and let's see what happened. It got reflected. So any changes that I do here is getting reflected here. Now, the first concept that we are going to discuss about is interpolation. Okay. Interpolation. What is interpolation? Interpolation is a simple concept wherein assume you have a variable here. Okay, this is a class. I'm declaring a variable here, name. Okay, and I'm going to give the name, variable name. It is going to be a string, and the string is going to be assigned to one team. Okay, and I'm going to save this. Okay, I saved it, and if I need to show that variable here, okay, on the HTML side. Now on the HTML side there is nothing. What I'm going to do is I am going to display the name here. Okay, and I'm going to save it. Let's see what happens. To make it more visible, I'll put it on a h1 tag, so it becomes more visible. Okay, so what happens here? The name variable name is fetched by the Angular app and displayed here. Okay, the variable name is being fetched by the Angular app and displayed here. So what is this? The interpolation is denoted by two angle brackets. Okay, and whatever I put in these two angle brackets will be evaluated. Okay, so if I put an expression here, so Angular expects an expression there, and I'm going to put up an expression there. So if I say 525 plus 1, and I'm going to save it. Okay, what happens? It becomes 526. Okay, and so you can put up any expression there. So I'm going to put up another expression here, which says solution. This is a new project. Okay, in double quotes. Okay, that's a string. Okay, and I'm going to concatenate it with the title. Okay, I'm going to save this. What happens? This is a new project and my first project. Save it. So what happens here? This is a new project. Okay, I'll put it up on h1 tag, so it becomes more visible. Okay, so what is happening here? Here I have a string. Okay, I have a string, and to that I am concatenating a variable. The title variable is already defined here. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that. The title variable is already defined here. So what is happening? In this case, this string is concatenated with this variable. My first project variable is concatenated with this, and it evaluates. So whatever you put inside this double angle brackets is getting evaluated, and you can see what is the output. Okay. Now, what if I call a function inside this? We'll just give that a try. Let's have an h1 tag and interpolation. So just to remember, interpolation is denoted by double curly braces. Okay, double curly braces is interpolation. Now I'm going to call a function. Just leave my name. Okay, that's a function that I'm going to call. Okay, I'm simply calling this function. I'm saving it. Okay, you don't see anything here. Okay, you don't see anything here because there is no function such my name. So we'll go create that function. How do we create a function? We come here. Okay, on the class, my name is the function. Okay, and what are we going to do? We are going to return my name is plus, and we'll give it name. Okay, so when you have to access the variable name within the class, you have to use this pointer. I hope all of you know it, because this is it uses it's same like a class. So in a class you have properties and methods. Properties are variables where you define the variables, and methods are functions. So what is happening here? What you're doing is you are returning the string my name is with this variable. Okay, this name, and let's see if that's actually working out. We'll save it. So what happens here? Let's look into it again. Okay, what we are going to do is let's forget all this. Okay, and we'll just save this. my name is one team. How did this come? This came simply because when the Angular compiler sees this, it says there is a request for h1 tag. Okay, h1 tag is already defined, and it is calling a function. Now, where is this function? It is in the TS file. So any functions will be defined in the TS file. So let's go and look into the TS file. Where is the TS file? Here. If you open the TS file, it finds a function, my name. Okay, what does it say? It says simply return my name is and this name, this variable. It's beautifully doing it, returning this value back to the HTML, and the HTML tag, what it does is under the h1 tag, it displays the data in h1. Okay, so this is what happens. I hope I'm able to get you people to it. Can I hear some feedback? Am I going fast, or is it all fine, or you guys have any doubt? Great, great. Thank you. I believe all of you are able to follow. Great, great, nice, beautiful. Fine. Let's go ahead. Now there are some things that you cannot do in interpolation. Okay, there's one thing that you cannot do on interpolation, and that's simply you can do an assignment process. So here, if I try and give a is equal to, okay, and if I save this, let's see what happens. It's compiled successfully. Okay, great. And what happened? What happened to our output? It just vanished. So what happened? We'll just right click. We'll click on inspect. Okay, inspect is like, you know, being a developer, JavaScript developer, this is one of the most important tool you guys should use. Okay, if you think you need to be a JavaScript developer, you need to know how to use this. Okay, these tabs work out magic. It solves out hundreds of problems. And we'll go to console. What does it say? When you go to console, it says unquote error, template pass error. Pass error binding cannot contain assignment at column 4. Okay, let's go into this line where it says A is equal to app name. Okay, and see here, it says because you have done an assignment, okay, interpolation doesn't work. So if you just remove it, I'm going to save it again. Okay, and let's see if our output comes out. Yes, wonderful. Our output comes out, and you have this Angular app running environment. So this is what is interpolation. So how this works is basically if you have here you do you write complex code to fetch data from APIs and all that, and once that happens, you can store that data into variable, and the variable is immediately shown here. Okay, this is how interpolation works. So any variable that is there on the TS file, if you need to see it, it is done using interpolation. Okay. Um, uh, Okay, I have few questions that's come up on the chat window. Okay, which says Nixon, it's not visible. Nisha, I'm not able to understand what's not visible. Can you explain which part was not visible? The console, I believe. I'm not sure if we can actually increase the font level of a console. Yeah. Okay, fine. I got it. Okay. So I'm going to repeat my mistake again. I'm going to do an assignment here. Okay. I'm going to do an assignment here, and I'm going to save this. Okay. And you see, there's an error coming up. And what does it say? Template pass error. And pass error bindings cannot contain assignments, which means you cannot have an assignment. It says in column 4. Okay. You cannot have an assignment. Since I have tried to do an assignment inside the interpolation, it says you cannot see the you cannot compile it. So that's how I got an error. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to save it again, and let's see what happens. See, wonderful. Our app runs. Nisha, I hope you got it clear. You were able to see it, and I have a request from Jitesh. Hear it once more. I am not sure what was it. Anyway, Jitesh, if there is something that I have to explain again, I will be really happy to do it. please come up. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so this is one part. Interpolation is your first step into building an application. Okay, this is one of the core concepts that we will be using. Now the next concept that we would be working on would be, okay, the next concept is structural directive. Okay, let's say, think of this scenario. If you need to use a conditional statement in displaying some data, okay, if you need to display some data based on a conditional statement, so if a condition is true, okay, let's take a variable, is allowed to see. Okay, that's a variable that I've named. Okay, is allowed to see is a variable I'm creating. It is of the type boolean. Okay, and I'm going to assign it to true. Let's keep it for true in the beginning. Okay, and just keep a note that true has to be simple without any single quotes or double quotes. It's simply true and it takes it as a boolean. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, only a person who is allowed to see this line, okay, only a person who is allowed to see my name function should see it. Okay, so how do I do it? That's the magic in Angular. Angular has built-in directives, okay, which can do this magic. So the first directive is ngIf. So we are going to talk about ngIf here. ngIf. Okay, this is an ngIf. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, simply I'm going to put a star and type in ngIf. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to equate it to a variable. Okay, let's see the variable here. What is the variable I've defined? I've defined a variable is allowed to see. Okay, I'm just going to put it here. I'm coming back here, and in the HTML, I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to save this. Okay. And here, yes, right. Okay. So now what happened? The browser comes here, the compiler comes here, it says ngIf, okay, displays ngIf here, perfect. Next it comes to h1 and it says an ngIf here. Okay, what happens next? When it sees an ngIf, it goes into the equal to part, the second part of the other side, the right hand side, and it sees for the variable, it sees this expression here, is allowed to see. Okay, so what do it does? It goes back to the TS file. Okay, so whenever HTML file needs to find a variable or anything to be processed, it looks into the TS file or the business logic file or the TypeScript file, and it comes here. It sees is allowed to see. It's a boolean, okay, which can hold true or false value, and it says it's true. So let's rewrite the statement. It says h1 ngIf is true, okay, and then it sees this function here. It displays the data here. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm simply going to the TS file and I'm going to change it to false, and I'm going to save this. Okay, let's see what happens. When I run the program, this part is missing. My name function is missing, or I. I is a text here. That's missing. You don't see it here. Why don't you see it here? It's simply because ngIf looks, if this expression that is given here is equating to true. If and only if this expression is equating to true, will the data be displayed here. Okay. And if it is false, it will not display. So we'll again go ahead and change it to true and see what happens. When you change it to true, it shows the data. When you change it to false, it doesn't show the data. That's simply because that expression is evaluated here. So if you needed to show a high, it has to be in double quotes. So when there's a high in double quotes, it evaluates it and it shows the data. Now that's one part. I hope all of you understood what ngIf is used for. Okay. Now here we are just evaluating one condition, and is allowed to see is the only condition that is being seen. Now if you are allowed to see, you need to say high, and if you're not allowed to see, you wanted to say no high. Okay. So let's think of this scenario. So our scenario is this. Okay. If allowed, show high, and high, and if not allowed, show no high. Okay. This is just a funny scenario. Okay. So you can relate it to any kind of scenario in your real-time programming world. So this is my objective. If I need to achieve this, how do I do it? Title is not having a type defined. Name is defined string type Y. Okay. So we have a question from Vishnu Prasad on the variable title has no type defined, and when I created a name variable, I have attached a string to it. I mean, I have defined it. It's up to you. There is no hard and fast rule that you need to have this. If you remove this and if you simply put name is equal to one thing, it still works. But then when you do this, the code becomes more readable. So next day, a person who sees it, it becomes more readable, and you're attaching a data type to this name variable. So it's just up to you. But then I prefer to keep it that way. Okay, so it becomes more easy for people who are actually viewing this video. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Okay, let's leave it as such. Coming to HTML. Okay, so we were telling this is my requirement. If I'm allowed to see is true, I need to show high, and if I'm not allowed, I need to show no high. Okay, so here what we are going to do is we are going to use another feature that Angular gives is ng template. Okay, I'm going to create an ng template. Okay, it's like a div. Okay, you can think of it as a div. Okay, so it is simply a div, alternative of a div in Angular, and I'm going to create two ng templates, and I'm going to give both of this a name, using a hashtag. I'm going to give it a hashtag. I'm going to say this is show if allowed. Okay, and show if not allowed. Okay, I'm going to keep it this way. Okay, and then here what I'm going to do is here what comes here high, and here what does it come here no high. I'm doing this. I'm going to save this. Okay, you don't see any change. Okay, next what we are going to do is I'm going to rewrite this if statement. Okay, ngIf. I'm going to write a new ngIf. So that's a div star ngIf is equal to. Okay, so we have an expression that has to be going to be evaluated. Okay, and then I'm going to close the div. Okay, now there are two conditions that have to be met. What is the first condition? What is the variable that is to be evaluated? The variable is allowed to see. Okay, so this variable I'm going to keep it here. Okay, so what happens? ngIf will evaluate this is allowed to see. Okay, what is going to happen next? We are going to give a true and a false statement. So if is allowed to see is true, we need to show the div. You're going to use then statement, and we're going to use this div. Okay, and if it is else, we're going to show this. Okay, I'm going to save this. Okay, I'm having a line. I'm putting up a line break here. I'm putting up h1 here, and okay. So what is the value of is allowed to see? Let's go and check out this. Is allowed to see is true. So when it is true, what has happened? It has it has is allowed to true is allowed to show is true. It has come and shown show if true if allowed. Okay. Now if what is coming up is false on the TS file, let's go and make it false, and I'm going to save this. What is it coming? It says no high. So let me just explain this again. Okay. Here we are creating a div. Okay, and we're giving a if statement. Okay, and if statement, what are we going to do? We are going to evaluate this is allowed to see variable. Okay, and then we are saying if it is true, you have to go to this ng template. So where is this ng template? It is here. And what is in it? High. So in case if it is false, then you have to go to else and show if not allowed. And what is in not allowed? No high. Okay. So I have a few questions that's come up. Okay. Azim's question is it case sensitive for keywords? Example ngif. Yes. So if I put it up, okay, that's a nice question, Azim. Case sensitive. Now if I say if, and if I save it, what happens? You have an error here. And what does the error say? Template pass error, ng if, can't bind ng if, because Angular doesn't know what is ng if. So this is really case sensitive. You need to keep the caps lock on when you type in it, and it works. Okay, so I'll just explain this again. Okay, when you have a div, okay, and on the div I'm giving a condition. It says is allowed to see. If this variable is true, you have to evaluate this part of the code. And if this variable is false, then you have to go to this part of it. Okay, and each is followed by a ng template which displays what is to be done here. Hi, you have show to be true. Okay, and no hi, you have show to be false. Okay, so I'm just putting up. So we have actually set up the variable ts to be false. So we'll change it to true and save it and see what happens. Okay, I believe all of you had followed ngf. Okay, so so we have a looping statement next. Okay, next we would be I'll be quickly running into the looping statements. Same way we have the same way we have ng if, we have another statement and the directive from Angular for looping through your arrays. So let's define an array here. Okay. Cars is of the type string equal to um, okay. So I have declared a string array with two values into it. It's a BMW and a Benz. Now if I need If I need Angular to loop through this and display it, Angular has given us such a simple statement, ng4. Okay. Now, one thing you might come across is ng word repeatedly in Angular. Ng simply means Angular. Ng is a short form for Angular. Okay, or that's how you can remember it. So let's go into an ng4 statement. Okay, div star ng4 is equal to, okay, let okay. So if you see, what I've done here is I've looped through this array. I've looped through the string array to display the values here. Okay, so if so let's again put it up on h1 for better visibility. Okay, and so what you see here is you have a BMW and a Benz that is being displayed, and these two are the values in our TS file. The BMW and the Benz are the two values that are there in our cars. So what is happening here is you're having an ng4 statement, okay, and in ng4 we are creating of this cars array, okay. Each element is assigned to car, okay. So on the first loop, the first is the BMW is being assigned to the variable car, and it comes down, and when it comes down using interpolation, it simply displays the variable car. And on the on the second, then it comes, displays here, goes back, and again on the car it says it looks for Benz, and it assigns it to this variable, and it is displayed here. So I hope this concept is clear. You use an ng4 to loop through the array. So you have an array car here, which is string, and you have the BMW and Benz values in that array of value index 0 and 1. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the variable cars, okay, which is defined in the TS file, and each of this value in the car is being looped through using the car variable, and it is displayed here. I can go ahead and use index, which is a keyword, as I, and display the I variable here. And what happens is you see the value of I which is the index. So if you need to loop through this and you need to have an index, you can use this as an expression. You can use +1 and go ahead and see, well, 1, 2, 3 numbers as such. I hope the concept is clear. Any doubts? So we have few questions here. That's what TypeScript meant to be, right? Okay. Okay. I have a few questions and doubts that's coming up on my screen. Let me look into it. What is meaning of star in front of ng if? Is it already there by design, or does it have any special meaning? It is there by design. Niaz's question was what is meant by the star in front of the ng if? So here, if you see the star here, Niaz's question is it something that is there by design, or does it have a specific meaning? No, Angular, I don't know, Angular meant designed it to keep a star here for ng4, ng if, ng switch. So it's just there. So that's a syntax that is being given to us, and we are simply following it. I hope, Nias, I've answered your question. Next question is, can you show an example for a condition inside loop? For a condition, okay. There would be a small glitch if you have to try putting up a condition inside a loop in Angular. So I can come up with that on the next session once we have completed ng switch, where we will implement something of similar type. Okay, the next question is, just curious, as anything put up in double quote is considered as a string, single string. How does the compiler recognize it to be a variable and assign the value for cars to car? Single string, okay. Okay, Azim, I'm not sure I understood your question. If it would be better, I believe your question was here. This looks like an assignment. Is it an assignment actually? But then this is not an assignment. This is a syntax that is given by Angular, which says you have a star followed by ng4, and then you have an equal to sign followed by double quotes. And whatever is there in this double quotes is being evaluated. There's a calculation that's going on here. Okay, it is not simply a assignment. So ng4 is a keyword that is used in Angular with a star, and after equal to, it is an assignment that's happening. It is an evaluation that's happening. I hope I was able to answer Azim. And Tony Matthews Nofar, please let me know how the dot came while doing loop. Okay, there was a question, how did the dot come? Okay, this dot. I believe this is the dot that you're asking about. That dot came just simply because I had put an li here. Okay, this is an unordered list. So if I remove the list item, so you don't see the dot. Okay, so I believe I have answered your question. Okay, please let me know how the dot came. Well, okay. Okay, Nixon, I got it. I missed it. Please let me know how the dot came. Okay, how does the ng template render in HTML? Is that a div? ng template is it's a structural directive. Okay, so there's a question by Nitin. He has asked, how does the ng template render in HTML? Is it like a div? It is a template. Ng directive is something that has been given by Angular. Okay, and it almost works like a div. Okay, to put it in simple words, it works like a div. The only problem or only concept of ng template is that it only works with a structural directive. So it only works with ng4, ng switch, and ng if. Okay. TS file once more to check. So there is. Can you please share the slide with us? I would be more than happy to share the slide with you. Okay, I'll make something done for that. And can you show the TS file once more to check? Yes, sure. I'll be more than happy. So we have TS file. Yes, this is the TS file. Anju has asked whether terminal will not show any compilation errors. I'm not sure on why should it show an error. If it would be good if you can explain more on the question. Okay, I think we can wind up with today's session. Okay, is there any other doubts that I can clear off? Something that I can help you with? We set up folder. I do not remember. Abby, okay. Abby has a doubt. Okay, Abby has a doubt, and the doubt is, where did you set the folder to? Folder from which this code file resides. I do not remember if you had it while creating the app with the Angular command. Okay. So just a second, Abby. I'll show you the command prompt. Okay. Abby, I believe you are able to see the command prompt. Okay. So what have we done? Let's go to the top. Okay. Okay. So what I've done is I've gone into my E drive. Okay. So let me on my E drive, I've created an MK directory new. I've made a new directory. okay, with the name file name new. And what I've done is I've simply given ng new my first project, okay, and I'm just opening the folder to you. So on my E drive, I have new folder, okay, and on my new folder I have two files coming. If you remember, I started with my first command, my first project, okay. There was no folder as such. This was a new folder I created, and there was no folder. So if I use the command mkdir make directory, it creates a new folder with nothing in it. And my next command was ng new my first project. So I did the command, and that's how all these files got created. So I didn't even have a single file of this in my folder before. So it's just uh, all created by Angular CLI. And after doing this, the second time there was someone who told me they couldn't see my terminal. So that's how we created our second project. So if you see, we will go ahead and see ng new project, and here is the project. Okay, I hope I cleared your doubt. Okay, now I asked errors can only be found from the console. Would it be while compiling? Introduction was good, except coming class. Can you webinar on Angular 8 with Laravel? Where did you get the photo? Okay, so Jinsi Jos, can you put a webinar about Angular 8 with Laravel? We sure can. So the session today was just an introduction to Angular 8. There is more to it and a lot to it, because you have to use services, you have to use modules, you have to use components, generate custom components. So this is just an introduction. You sure can work out something on it. Okay. Anju, I asked. Okay, the question given by Anju was, I asked, is error can be only found from the console? Would it be shown while compiling? There are some errors that will be shown while compiling. Okay, if there is a type error, it will be shown while compiling, but runtime errors are shown on the console. So what we had was a runtime error, so that is why it is shown on the console. The next question is by Abhi. He says, okay, got it. We have to go to the directory and then run the command. Thanks for the clearing. Can you please use a notepad or something to show the CLI command using? Yes, I'll do that. Azim, while creating the new project with ng new project, we only specify the routing value and the CSS file specification. How did Angular engine create the TS file? Why not it had JS or PHP file created by Angular CLI? So Angular CLI is a tool given by Angular team itself. So they have designed, or one of the reason, if you see, this question is good actually. What Azim has asked is, why using the command ng new, all these folders were created, and why not something else? So this is the core reason that Angular has come up with the CLI command. The objective of CLI command is to simply give define a structure, a default structure from which the developers can develop upon. It's like a boilerplate, it's like, they half cook the things for you, and then you just have to cook the remaining. So that is why Angular has come up with such a structure. So simply using ng new, you can uh, by simply using ng new, this structure is defined, and then you can just go ahead and create more components into it. Creating of components will be discussed on a session tomorrow, and I believe a poll would be taken on what would to be done next. Otherwise, all the terminal code was a little mess. Thanks, it was really a nice session. Next session is same time tomorrow, right? Yes, Vishnu Prasad, the next session would be same time tomorrow. I think Progressive Techies would be getting back to you on what would be the next. Okay. Any more doubts? I hope I was. See, Angular is a big topic. It's an ocean actually. And what we have tried today is to cover a very, very, very small portion, less than 1% of what it is. In 1 hour, I have tried to explain what the concepts are. So, in the future session, we will try and bring in more concepts. Any suggestions or feedback, I would really be happy. The next session is scheduled for tomorrow at 7. I believe it's that way. If there's any changes, I think the administrator would be letting you know. Thank you guys. I'm really happy to know that the session was useful. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. It was really nice interacting with you. I'm really happy that I had a session where people asked me doubts. So it really means a lot, because when we have an interactive session, it means a lot. So really nice to have all of you guys. Okay, and I would be happy to clear more of your doubts in the coming sessions. Appreciate it, very well appreciated. All of your comments makes me really happy. Thank you. Uh, the admin, what do we do next? Can we end off the session? Is there a message to be conveyed?